I have a really good feeling about this Denver Broncos team. I have a really good feeling that by the end of the season, when we're in week 16, 17, 18, going into the playoffs, I have a really good feeling that we're going to look back on the season that Denver had, and we're going to say, yeah, they dropped that game in Seattle. They had maybe another one or two losses where they should have won the game. But we're going to look back and we're going to look at this Denver team as probably a wild card playoff team, but still a playoff team, and a team that has a chance to make some noise in the playoffs. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can go with the conversation regarding last night's game with Denver. You could say Nathaniel Hackett is an idiot for going for a 64-yard field goal to win the game. But, I mean, the thing is, it's the NFL. And as much as I agree with the statement of, how it was handled last night, you kind of have to say, Nathaniel Hackett, you have Russell Wilson, you just paid him all this money in the offseason, you trade all these assets for him in the offseason. Why not give him the ball on 4th and 5 and let him try to convert? That drive was a really tough drive for Denver up to that point. And I think that's something that Nathaniel Hackett knew. Now, I'm not saying that that's something to just use as a reason as to why Russell Wilson doesn't deserve the ball over kicking a 64-yard field goal, but I can somewhat understand where Nathaniel Hackett is coming from. Another thing about the game last night, look, Nathaniel Hackett didn't fumble twice on the 1-yard line last night. Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams last night were major reasons that the Denver Broncos did not win last night. You can't fumble twice. You can't have a fumble from each of your running backs on the 1-yard line. Because guess what? If either of those drives go, I guess the one fumble was on 4th down, so it's not like it really matters that much. If you're really going to criticize Nathaniel Hackett, you say instead of running the ball on 4th and 1 there, just take the field goal. But that's not what the analytics say, so it's kind of like, are you fighting the analytics or are you fighting guaranteed points? It's a weird conversation either way. But the second time it happened, that's nobody's fault but Javonte Williams for fumbling that ball. The play was rushed, yeah. But, once you have the ball in your hand, you can't just let it get punched out, especially on the 1-yard line. Now, where I will say that Nathaniel Hackett does need to step it up a little bit. Look, it can't get to a point where you're only scoring 16 points against one of the worst rosters in the league. Some things were being done late in the game last night by the Denver Broncos offense, an offense that is play called by Nathaniel Hackett, where you look at it and you think, man, this is really what, this is really what you hired to be the head coach and the play caller of your team? This is not looking great. Now, it's the first week. It's week 1. And Denver showed some things. That play that Jerry Jeudy had, look, if Russell Wilson has a better ball on that, Jerry Jeudy is walking into the end zone instead of having to make a contested catch. But that's why Jerry Jeudy has the high hopes that I think not only people in Denver, but people around the entire NFL have for Jerry Jeudy, that he can make those kinds of plays, whether it's a perfect throw or an imperfect throw. So that's kind of all I have to say about Denver. I think their defense played great, and there's nothing really that you need to say about that. What you can say about Seattle, this could be the only win that they have all year, and I think they would be beyond happy with that. The only thing that would be better than beating Russell Wilson once would probably be beating San Francisco twice. That's kind of just how Seattle Seahawks fans operate. I don't necessarily respect it, because the hope should be that you guys lose every single game and you can draft a quarterback this year. But now that you guys have a win, now that you guys are the only team in the NFC West to have a win, there's going to be some dumb conversations that are going to be had. There's going to be some conversations like, oh man, could we actually win the NFC West with Geno Smith as our starting quarterback? No, you can't. You can't even make the playoffs. Your defense is terrible. Your offense is terrible. You can't run the ball. You can get run on a majority of the time. If Denver would have kept on running the ball last night, they would have had a much better opportunity to win that game. But for some reason, it just became the air it out show to Eric Saubert and backup tight ends and wide receivers that we don't even like. The passing game last night made no sense for Denver. And there's some moments, like I said earlier, where you look at it and you go, really, that's the play call in this moment, in this magnitude of a game, on the road? Like, that's the play call? But for Seattle, here's what you do have. You have the fans behind you now in Seattle, to where if you want to do something, you can do it. If you want to do something these next 3 or 4 weeks with Geno Smith as your starting quarterback, you can do it now. If you would have came into last night and it would have been a blowout loss for your team, it would have been like, man, we really sided with our 70-year-old head coach instead of a former Pro Bowl, Super Bowl winner quarterback. That's who we sided with over Russell Wilson. But now that the win is in your column instead of the other teams, you have some room to kind of do whatever you want now. And as much as I hate what this Seattle Seahawks roster looks like, there's nothing more fun in the NFL than a bad team with a perfect record. And that's what the Seattle Seahawks are going to be for at least the next week, is a bad team with a perfect record. I don't know exactly what their schedule looks like. I know soon it's like the Saints. I know the Lions. I think the Eagles. That could be all completely wrong, but I know for sure they play the Lions soon. They obviously have their 3 divisional opponents that they'll see 6 times over this year. But this is exciting because Seattle should not have won the game last night, and that's what makes the NFL so fun. Is so many teams over this weekend that should not have won the game ended up winning the game. And the Seattle Seahawks were the perfect end to the week 1 of the 2022 NFL season by being another bad team to get a win this week.